Madagascar, Africa. The CAPSAT military unit has taken power in Madagascar after the National Assembly has voted to impeach President Andry Rajoelina for desertion of duty. The president's impeachment was passed with 130 votes in favor, well above the two-thirds constitutional threshold required in the 163-member chamber. The head of the CAPSAT unit has declared that they have taken power and that the unit will set up a committee composed of officers from the Army, Gendarmerie, and National Force. Police. Rajoelina had refused to step down despite escalating Gen Z demonstrations demanding his resignation and widespread defections in the army. The protests began on September 25th and reached a pivotal point last week when soldiers and security forces, including CAPSAT, joined the demonstrators and called for the president and other government ministers to step down. CAPSAT played a major role back in the 2009 coup that first brought Rajoelina to power. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Osaniyin Taiwo. He's a policy and strategic implementation expert, joins us live from Abuja. Thank you very much, Taiwo, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, what more can you tell us about this, what's ongoing in Madagascar?
Thank you for having me on NewsX. Unfortunately, as I stated, I think yesterday when I was on your program, I said that it's unfortunate that African leaders have always and would always try to make the citizens of the countries which they lead to actually become a bone in the truth. And what do I mean by this is because they underperform. They not only underperform, they think that actualizing power or imposition of power gives them any right and every right to actually trample on the citizens' rights and perform low based on their campaign promises and what have you. But the most unfortunate part of it is that today African countries are beginning to celebrate military dictatorship and military government like the light after the tunnel, which doesn't also speak rightly of the fact that military should actually take over any state of Africa. While stated, also very critical to understand that there might be wins, there might be little wins in the ways on which the military takes over power, and which we've seen in some countries like Burkina Faso, like Chad. But Madagascar entering this stream now, it's actually a very critical position for countries in the Southern Africa region. And this is going to be like a continual trend, and African countries will think that is the opportunity for them to actually get liberation from their elected political leaders. But that is not the way forward. The way forward will be that I will still advise the people of Madagascar to go back to the poll, get a credible leader that they believe in, even though Rajoelina has been impeached or has been ousted from power, and get a leader that would actually sink into the mind. Unfortunately, and the unfortunate part is this: Africa get the leaders they deserve. Because what? The people themselves, the people of Africa, do not even really know the kind of leaders they want.
And Taiwo, if you can tell us, given the role of military units like CAPSAT in Madagascar's past, how do you see this latest political shift affecting the relationship between the military and civilian leadership, particularly in Madagascar?
So what we're going to have is we're going to have a total political shift. Like there's not going to be a cordiality between the military and the people. There might just be kind of leadership stability for a moment or for a period of time. It might not be so long, but the honest truth is that there will still be a high level of political tension. There's a high level of development. There's a high level of underdevelopment, pardon me. There will be a high level of even security, because this is now going to be an opportunity for extensive looting. It's going to be an opportunity for the duration of the country's fabric of governance. And this is also going to lead to a very critical situation whereby even the military will try to want to governize the state and ensure that things are going smoothly. But the honest truth is this: the citizens would not and may not even trust the incoming military government.
With that, I would like to thank Osanin Taiwo for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next news as well. Meanwhile, the streets of Madagascar's capital, Antananarivo, are largely quiet as residents have returned to their daily routines following weeks of protests that saw a military takeover of the government. Residents of Antananarivo are hopeful for a better future for the country as they say that they are satisfied with the military takeover. Let's listen into what some residents have said.
À Madagascar, les vie est très évoluée sur les vies politiques. Et la scène Madagascar très satisfait avec les militaires pris ce pouvoir. Nous attendons des nouvelles bases, nouveaux bases, nouveaux systèmes à Madagascar.
On attend beaucoup de progrès au développement de notre pays et surtout au niveau de l'éducation.
Now we move on to Kenya. Former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga has died at the age of 80 while receiving treatment at a hospital in Kerala, India. Odinga was one of Kenya's most influential political leaders, known for his decades-long fight for democracy and his role in shaping the country's modern politics. He ran for president 5 times and remained a powerful opposition voice, often calling for electoral reforms and national unity. Odinga has spent years in detention under one-party rule and later became a symbol of resistance and reform in Kenya. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Osanin Taiwo. He's a policy and strategic implementation expert, joins us live from Abuja. Thank you, Osanin, for staying with us. Now, how do you think this passing of Raila Odinga's will impact Kenya's political landscape, especially in terms of opposition politics?
Well, the people of, I want to commiserate with the people of Kenya towards the loss of their opposition leader, that's Raila Odinga. This is a very monumental loss to the people of Kenya, and we cannot take the fact that Odinga was actually a very great leader. We can also take the fact that his works, his 2 great works, aside from running for elections 5 times in Kenya, was one of the things that he's highlighted for. But we can't take the fact that he brought about and introduced the multi-party system in Kenya, and also which was enacted in 1991, and also brought about the new constitution, I think in 2001 or something like that. These are the great works Odinga brought to Kenya, and certainly it's going to be highly missed. It's going to be critically missed, and I want to commiserate with the family as well. But on the flip side, the people of Kenya, I don't think they will have someone like Odinga coming up in Kenya in a very long time, because he has made his mark and he has really created a voice for the people, and for a strong voice for the opposition as well, both as a Kenyan and also even in the African politics. Beyond that, it's also very important that it is time for leaders in Africa today to sit back and understand that life is a phase, and such things are enormous, and it's just a baseline for everything to happen, which is death. And while we reflect about his achievements, and all the things that he has done in Kenya and for the people of Kenya and for the development of the country, we must also remember that the common denominator in life is death. And African leaders must understand that they must actually perform and do very well, so that after life, they are celebrated, and their impact in government, in the people and in the countries that they represent are actually loud and enough to put them in global limelight.
And we do send our condolences as well to the people of Kenya for their late Prime Minister Odinga. And what more can you tell us about his legacy and his long political career, including his efforts for electoral reforms and national unity? Do you think he had any impact on Africa in general as well?
Yes, we can't take the fact that Odinga actually was centered around very critical constitutional review and constitutional development in Kenya. And even though he was a political prisoner in Kenya, and he happened to be the face around opposition in Kenya. We can't take the fact that as things stands right now, even though Kenya is still having its own challenges in terms of development, in terms of governance and whatever, but the truth remains that Kenya has been well positioned in the African politics and African economic framework to actually saddle and work around good development. And that is where we can have people, great minds like Patrick Lumumba coming up today, and also tailoring some kind of opposition voices for the people of Kenya. We also have a lot of African voices today from Kenya that they have also been tailored around the school of Odinga's political learning. So it's a good thing, and then it has metamorphosed to some part of Africa, and we can't even talk about the impact that he made in some of the parts of Africa, from Kenya to Lesotho to even South Africa, Nigeria, and what have you. So he lived a life
And
of, development. He lived a life of a voice, and he gave the people of Kenya that voice. And I think the African people, the African region will be this is going to be a very great image for the African region at large.
thank you for sharing his legacy, shedding light on that, Taiwo. And lastly, what do you believe will be the key challenges for the opposition in Kenya moving forward without his leadership?
Well, it's going to be very critical, and I'm just hoping that the opposition gets a new leader. I'm hearing some names coming up offline and in the air to actually want to take over from the late leader. But the real question will be that would the opposition really stand the values and the tenets of Randy Odinga? This is a critical and rhetorical question that the people or the opposition leaders in Kenya need to answer, because Odinga has left a big shoe to be filled, and the question is, will it be rightly filled?
With that, I would like to thank Osani Taiwo for joining us and sharing that insight all the way from Abuja. Now we stay in Africa and we move on to Tunisia. Emergency services are